Egunon, buenos días a todas las emprendedoras y empresarias que nos estáis viendo. Bienvenidas a INNpower Auckland-Bizkaia. Voy a dar la palabra a Ainara Basurko Urkidi, ekonomia sustatzeko saileko Bizkaiko foru diputatua dena. Eskerrik asko, benetan, hemen egoteagatik.
Eskerrik asko, zuri Miren, egunon, Bizkaia. Good afternoon, Auckland. Nire eskerrik beroenak eta errekonozimendu zintzoa emakumekeni ekimen arrakastatsu hau mantentzeko egiten duzuen lan handiagatik. Direnak direla momentuko egoeraren ezaugarriak. Eskerrik asko, benetan. Plazer itzela da, zuei guztioi, ongi etorria ematea, INNpowerren edizio berri batera, eta aukera izatea Auckland eta Bizkaiaren artean burutuko den bidaia honetan bidelagun izateko. Como decía, quería comenzar trasladando mi más sincero agradecimiento y reconocimiento a emakumeekin por el esfuerzo que habéis realizado para mantener esta fantástica iniciativa a pesar de las circunstancias. Eskerrik asko. Es un verdadero placer poder daros la bienvenida a una nueva edición de INNpower y acompañaros en el inicio de este viaje entre Auckland y Bizkaia. Tenemos por delante 3 días para escuchar, compartir nuevas experiencias que nos inspiren y que se reflejen en nuevos retos y en nuevos objetivos. El tema elegido es sin duda muy pertinente: diseñar el futuro, accionar el presente. Hemos pasado muchos meses tratando de sobreponernos a una crisis sanitaria que llegó a paralizar el mundo y cuyas consecuencias difícilmente podían preverse. Han sido meses de mucha incertidumbre. Yo diría, sobre todo además, han sido meses de mucho aprendizaje continuo. Hemos hecho nuestra esa afirmación que asegura que tras cada cambio se esconde una gran oportunidad. Una reflexión que encaja perfectamente con el espíritu emprendedor. Las grandes transformaciones surgen en ocasiones de pequeños cambios y estos surgen al hilo de nuevas ideas, de una charla inspiradora o de una experiencia real. Por eso es tan importante compartir y seguir trabajando en red, en comunidad, en clave local y en clave internacional. Ahora se habla mucho de innovación abierta. Y esta iniciativa es un claro ejemplo de innovación abierta. Vais a conocer experiencias reales de emprendedoras que viven a miles de kilómetros de distancia. Es mucho lo que nos separa, pero es mucho también lo que nos une. Y hoy compartimos las mismas inquietudes y las mismas incertidumbres. Y una misma receta para crecer desde el punto de vista de empoderamiento. Como decía, desde mi punto de vista, este es un buen ejemplo de innovación abierta, de esa innovación que acelera nuestro crecimiento. Y para ilustrar un poquito esta idea, quisiera hacer referencia a un autor que es muy reconocido en el mundo del management, como es Xavier Marcet, quien afirma lo siguiente: la innovación vive en empresas abiertas, la innovación vive en la diversidad. La innovación está en la mirada y la mirada de nuestros expertos internos en ocasiones está contaminada de un saber condicionado, el saber que conoce demasiado bien todo lo que parece imposible, y la innovación lo hacen los que sabían que era imposible. Es decir, Xavier lo que hace es nos invita a abrirnos a nuevas miradas, a nuevas experiencias, a nuevas personas, a abrazar la diversidad para innovar de forma disruptiva. Y creo de verdad que hay mucho de esta filosofía en esta iniciativa que tenemos en INNpower. Izan ere, eraldaketa sakonean den garaian bizi gara eta Bizkaiko Foru Aldundiko ekonomia sustatzeko sailean zuen bidelagun izan nahi dugu. Lankide aliatu gisa ikusi gaitzazuen nahiko genuke. Zuen enpresen eta proiektuen etorkizunerako egokiena litzatekeen estrategia definitzeko bidelagun. Eta xede honetan berrikuntza eta lehiakortasun palankarik eraginkorrena berrikuntza da. Ez dago zalantzarik horren inguruan. Estamos viviendo, decía en euskera, un periodo muy evidente de transformaciones y desde el departamento que represento yo, Promoción Económica de la Diputación Foral de Bizkaia, queremos ser parte de este viaje y que nos sintáis como un aliado para diseñar la mejor estrategia de futuro para vuestras empresas y vuestros proyectos. Creemos en la innovación como la mejor palanca de mejora de competitividad, sin lugar a dudas, y creemos que aquí y ahora se puede hacer. Por tanto, apoyamos iniciativas como INNpower y ponemos a vuestra disposición programas, subvenciones y servicios para asesoraros y ayudaros a crecer. Programas que apoyan proyectos innovadores de contenido tecnológico o no tecnológico, que contribuyen a avanzar en la transición digital o en la transición verde, que facilitan procesos de interacción entre empresas y nuevas startups, así como programas que nos ayuden a atraer talento que nos pueda ayudar a avanzar en nuestros retos, por hacer mención a alguno de ellos. Es decir, programas que tienen como objetivo que se puedan diseñar el futuro de las empresas con mayores garantías. Y todo ello, evidentemente, con una premisa clara de igualdad de oportunidades. La generación de empleo y riqueza en Bizkaia solo es posible si existen personas emprendedoras y empresarias y si existen empresas. Y en este sentido, somos conscientes de las diferencias de género que siguen existiendo en el emprendimiento y en la actividad empresarial y que requieren todavía de mayores compromisos. Por ello, la Diputación, además de incorporar de forma constante y transversal la perspectiva de género en todas sus actuaciones, seguirá impulsando acciones directamente dirigidas a apoyar, a conocer, a visibilizar a mujeres emprendedoras, a mujeres empresarias. Acciones concretas para fomentar la presencia femenina en órganos de representación de las empresas, acciones para dar reconocimiento, para visibilizar, y con iniciativas como INNpower, programas como Andrekintzaile, el Observatorio de Empresas, Empresarias y Directivas, e incorporando criterios de valoración con perspectiva de género en subvenciones, por ejemplo, pues creemos que vamos dando pasitos todas y todos juntos. Bide honetatik jarraituko dugu, bide honetatik jarraitzeko asmoa daukagu. Berrikuntza sustatuko dugu, berrikuntza irekien indarguneak eta enpresetan txertatu daitezen animatuz. Talentu aniztasuna sustatuko dugu, berrikuntzarako osagai estrategikoa bezala eta estrategikoa delako. Eta aukera berdintasuna sustatuko dugu, nahitaezkoa dugulako guztion ekimena, emakume eta gizonena aukera berdinekin gure lurraldearen lehiakortasunerako eta bizkaitarron garapen ekonomiko eta sozialerako. Zorionak beraz, amaitzeko antolatzaileoi eta baita bereziki parte hartzaileoi, INNpowerreko ekimen honetan parte hartzeagatik. Egun ona eta emankorra izan dezazuela guztiok.
Mila esker, Ainara Basurko Urkiri, zure hitzengatik, eta honen bestez, ongi etorria emango diogu gure lehenengo hizlariari, con las palabras de la diputada foral Ainara Basurko Urkiri. Vamos a dar comienzo a INNpower, que como sabéis es innovación y empoderamiento, y que nos trae en esta ocasión la ciudad de Auckland, en Nueva Zelanda. Así que vamos a dar la bienvenida en maorí, que es una de las lenguas de Nueva Zelanda, kia ora, a la primera ponente, eskerrik asko. Kaixo, egunon. Bueno, tenemos hoy la oportunidad de tener a Vanessa Jane Smith. Ella es creadora y fundadora de Crafting Connection, una empresa creada en 2004. Bera coach eta mentorea da, eta sormen lidergoan aditua, bai formakuntzak ematen ditu, eta baita ere graphic recording teknikaren bidez, hitzaldiak erregistratu, irudikatu eta baita ere horrekin narratiba bat sortzen du. Decía que ella, como formadora y facilitadora, es también oyente visual, de modo que devuelve en reuniones estratégicas y encuentros, devuelve su punto de vista visual, pero también construye nuevas narrativas. Quería darte la bienvenida, Vanessa, ongi etorria.
Gracias.
Vanessa, si quieres puedes comenzar con una presentación sobre ti, sobre qué te ha traído a este punto, porque creemos que es muy interesante que tu manera de pensar, ya que INNpower es empoderamiento y es innovación, creemos que es muy interesante que tú puedas aportarnos tu punto de vista pues con un pensamiento creativo y a su vez con esa perspectiva que tienes de las organizaciones y de las empresas. Bienvenida.
Gracias. Bueno, well, for a start, I will speak in English because it's easier for me. I'm from New Zealand, but I lived for 13 years in Spain from 2000 to 2013. Actually, in that time, I think I really started to evolve my creativity while I was living in Spain. So it's something that I always had, and it's always just been kind of sitting on my shoulder. But like anything in life, you know, it takes a crisis to sort of shift often us out of one place into another place. And yeah, I had been, you know, living in Madrid. It was 2001. That was a big year. The Twin Towers went down and my whole world was shaken, and I was living basically by myself in Madrid. And I was teaching, and I was teaching English as a foreign language with a particular interest in conversation and how conversations evolve. So, you know, this is where I began in this area with a love for words and a love for language and people, but also with this creative side. But I you know, I started to realize that one day, actually, this question came up in me, which was what I call you know, the añoranza, the yearning from within. And I thought, there's got to be more to life than this. And this was kind of going to a job which didn't pay well, which was for someone else in a way, not my own work, and giving all my energy away for these sort of low wages, and then just continuing to do that for what, the rest of my life. so it was just like one of those moments when the light went on, and I just said to myself, you know, enough of this. I don't want to. Something has to change here, and so that was really the beginning of my journey into who I am. And what I've discovered along the way, and it's been a long way, is that really by discovering who I am, I've been able to put that into a direction in order to help people, but coming from my own energy source, if you know what I mean. So my own inspiration and my own drive. And what I discovered really was that I'm a sensor. I'm someone who senses, who understands the world not through the head, but through the feeling. So a sensor living in a doer's world. That's how I describe myself. And I've been sort of sensing the world and developing tools through my work, which had to do with the senses. And so what I did was I developed this technique of working first by listening and then drawing all these images of conversations. We'll put some images up there later so you can see them. But and since then I've just been working sort of globally, living in Spain and the Netherlands, and now I'm back in New Zealand and working really over the internet more than you know, locally. So I listen to meetings and conferences and I draw the stories that are evolving, and then we use it. We use the picture and the story, the visual story, to sort of evolve and develop from there. And apart from that, there's a lot of, there's the coaching side of things I do as well, and working with individuals, and I really enjoy that too. So it's many things, but it's always creative.
Muchas gracias. Pues lo de sensar es algo muy interesante, el sensar, el no tanto utilizar el pensamiento en la forma habitual, sino también dejarse llevar por eso que sensamos, ¿no? Ni siquiera que sentimos, sino algo mucho más de piel. Y en esto estás tú inmersa con el comienzo del poder de las conversaciones, hacia hacer que esas conversaciones, tú ser testigo de ellas y también devolverlas para hacer evolucionar a las personas, a los equipos y el contexto. Cuéntanos sobre, bueno, ¿qué nos quieres contar sobre en INNpower, ¿no? ¿Qué nos has traído? What do you want to tell us for INNpower people here, or the women that are listening to you?
I think it's a good idea at this point to give a sort of a background of the global kind of context at the moment, which gives them the reason why kind of we're all listening to this in the first place. So, I believe there's a particular move going on in today's world where because of many things, but COVID being one of them, it's meant that we've had to change so much and rather quickly in practical way, but it's also affecting us emotionally and in all sorts of ways. And then there's the sort of the environmental crisis going on as well. So there's so much happening in the world. And I think what is needed more now than ever is a sort of a shift away from the way we've always done things to new ways of doing things. But in order to do things differently, we have to be in a different state. I think what we're doing and what we've done, what is happening today is that we're moving from sort of the age of industrialization, the age of the head, the age of reason, where we were in control, to place which is quite different. So we're moving from the age of the head into the age of the heart. And there are many people today in organizations working, bringing this sort of work into organizations, which has all to do with, rather than imposing ideas onto a situation, it's like taking a step back before you take a step forward. So it's about listening, it's about creativity, it's about fluidity, that things are changing and that we have to become flexible to change with them and observe and to see, where things are actually wanting to move to. So I guess the question becomes, how do you actually do that, right? And I have this little story actually from Spain, where a family member said, you can't change things, Vanessa. La vida es así. And this was after a long conversation. So for me, it was such a gift, this statement, because of what happened inside me when she said this. And when she said, La vida es así, I realized that actually that was a point of view and that I didn't see the world así, like a fixed thing, that I saw the world as flowing and changeable. And so it was a gift for me, because it was like, this is the way I want to go. I felt it. I heard what she said. I felt it. It resonated inside me. And I'm like, wow, this is powerful, because this is where a lot of people are. They're in a sort of a fixed mindset about how the world is. And actually, the world is incredible. I mean, it's surprising, it's creative, you know, it's in constant motion. It's a law of the universe. Things just change all the time. In fact, if there's one thing that never changes, it's that things always change. So, you know, how do you change a mindset? How do you change this from fixed into more flexible and flowing in order to respond to what's going on our planet, in our conversations, you know? And I was thinking about it beforehand, you know, when you invited me to talk. And I think one of the things that happens is that actually all of this is a story that we live inside. So to say la vida es así is a story like any other. And we're all, we all have our right to our stories, and that's fine. But to realize that actually it's just another story. And there's also a lot of people working today on, you know, storytelling and changing the power of story. And I think globally we're at the end of an old story and we're at the beginning of a new story, which looks very different. So I think, you know, one of the things that we really need to do primarily to start to move with the times is to raise our consciousness. So, you know, Einstein said that you can't resolve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created the problem in the first place. So we're kind of being asked to grow beyond what we believe is possible, which is a big thing. One of my favorite films, you know, is Alice in Wonderland. And Tim Burton's version of Alice in Wonderland. And she says she's about to, I think, kill the monster. And she said the only way to believe the impossible is to believe that it is possible. So she goes off and then she does what she thought was impossible. But it was, again, just an idea. So I think that's what I'm trying to say. You know, we need to make more space for new ideas. So when someone says something, notice what's going on inside you, because maybe you're judging that person and therefore you're already not listening to that person. So what if anything was possible? And what if we could just listen more and sit with it just a little bit longer than we normally do? Give it more space, less walls around our minds. So, you know, this leads to sort of a change of behavior. And when I was, one of the tools actually that one of the keys into that is really interesting. I remember when I discovered it the first time, it was this idea of reacting versus responding. So a reaction is an action again and again and again and again. When you respond to something, I like to look at it like a creative answer, rather than if somebody does this, I do that. You know, there's no thinking involved. It's just backwards and forwards. And so nothing's changing. But if you can step back, make a little bit of space around that action and listen in, then you can start to access more consciousness around the field of what's happening. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, this is we're living in an age which is fascinating, scary, very difficult time, but also it feels to me like a moment of, it could go this way or this way. depending on how open we are. So what I wanted to do actually was, well, I wanted to share some ideas about how we can really embrace this moment in history as an invitation, as the invitation that I believe that it is, to something way more than what we think we are capable of. I think it's an invitation now to listen deeper and to kind of realize our huge creative potential. And these are all great words, but the point is you actually have to go into the action. You have to act on it and have the experience for yourself in order to sort of understand it at a deeper level.
Vanessa, comentas que tú pasaste a través de una conversación que te hizo, que te impactó y te hizo pensar y te hizo entender que para ti, si alguien decía la vida es así, para ti esa manera de pensar era una manera fija y eso te hizo ver en ti que tú tenías otra manera de ver o que veías otras posibilidades mucho más flexibles, que no había una foto fija, que la vida no es una foto fija, sino que es más un vídeo por crear, ¿no? Es algo que está en constante movimiento y en ese sentido hablas de que este momento actual socialmente es una muy buena oportunidad para crear más espacio vacío, más espacio creativo, más perspectiva y dar como un paso atrás para tomar perspectiva y ver que podemos tomar la acción, que podemos ser protagonistas, ¿no? de nuestra historia y que esa narrativa de la vida es así, es una historia y que como tal hay más historias. No quiere decir que esa sea o no cierta, sino que esa es de esa persona y que otras personas pueden también crear su propia manera de ver, su propia manera de pensar esas historias. Entonces, en esto que nos comentas, hay una cuestión también que me parece interesante, que es que esto que tú comentas muchas veces ya lo sabemos, pero por algún motivo lo olvidamos. We sometimes know that all the things that you were telling to us, we know that, but why is it so easy to forget?
Well, because we're not awake. You know, and we've all done this. I've done this for so long. I mean, I've often asked myself, you know, what did it take you, Vanessa, to get on this path? Like, you know, and I think there was something inside me that was longing for more life, more color, more realness, not this false kind of persona that I put on when I walk out the door, but the person that I am when I'm happiest, the person when I am when I'm most creative. That is a person who is not contained. I'm free to just express myself and be who I am. So I'm no longer trapped inside a story of limitation, but believing in the story of new creation. And actually, the moment we're living right now, there is far more openness because of the difficulty that we've kind of been living through. In a way, it's created this new sort of situation where, yes, old systems are falling down, but it's kind of making it an open playing field to start recreating, but recreating from another starting point. So it's a mindset shift of stepping into this more open playing field where we learn through practice. I mean, this is how I've learned. Coaching, being a coach has really helped me to learn to listen, but drawing conversations has really helped me to learn to listen, because that's what I have to do. I have to listen and then I have to project it up on the wall. But really, it's the way that I have learnt is simply by practicing, by falling down, by, you know, you've got to know which way you want to go. I really want to achieve this for myself in my life. And then you've got to look at, well, you know, what am I doing to support that vision, you know? And if I'm really not doing anything different, then the result's going to be the same. Also, another really important point is, how does it make me feel on the inside? Like, if it's not resonating, if it's not making me feel anything in particular, then probably it's not the right thing. Probably it's not quite the right thing for me. I need to find something which is really going to give me the sort of the energy to kind of dedicate to this, because it's hard, it's tough. We don't do it because, no, but I think people don't want to change in our, you know, because it's hard work sometimes. But I feel that, you know, what you gain from it is so much more. And yes, you know, I've often looked at my life in terms of, like, you know, the process of a butterfly and the sort of the caterpillar, and going into the, you know, getting fatter and fatter, and then sort of decomposing and sort of transforming. But without sort of, you know, we're needing to go through this process in order to come out. And I think we have a resistance to change in general. But it's practice. It's really obvious, really. There's no magic key, you know, it's just, I did it, you know, and forgiveness when you don't do it again, and then going back again and trying again and again. But also later I'm going to be giving some of the tools that I've learned that actually help in the moment, because I think what we're needing to learn to do today is to live much more in the present moment, on the edge, which is the creative point. If you think about a shape, it's kind of like the center part is a bit that doesn't change, right? But outside, even our bodies, it's the edges that expand and contract. So this is the place where we need to be, on the edge of what we know and what we don't know. Staying on that edge. You can translate that if you like.
Sí, hablabas, Vanessa, de los límites, ¿no? De cómo hay una parte central de la persona que no cambia, pero que hay otra, ¿no? Que es como que si fuera la piel o el externo, que cambia y se expande, ¿no? Y se transforma. Entonces, que tenemos que estar ahí en ese límite y que de alguna manera... Eso, hablabas anteriormente también de las limitaciones, ¿no? de que tenemos que estar abiertas a cuestionar esas limitaciones y estar ahí en ese límite.
So I thought, you know, it'd be good to sort of, I've always been, like, when I was teaching English as a foreign language in Madrid, and also learning Spanish, I was someone who wanted what I called light luggage. So I didn't want too much grammar in my head and rules and regulations from the Spanish language. I wanted to just have a few and then be able to dance with what I had, if that makes sense. So it's the same kind of thing with this. So I was thinking, you know, when we're in the moment, like the now is all we have. We might be focused on the past or the future, but actually all we've got is now. And I read somewhere that, you know, real change happens one conversation at a time. And I love that. And I'm like, well, how do you show up in a way that is going to affect the most change. You know, that is really going to uncover the potential, like in a conversation, for example. And I wanted light luggage. You know, I wanted something that's really simple that I can kind of hold on to in the moment when I'm in that sort of situation, you know, with a client, in a company, with lots of people, trying to capture all the best stuff of a conversation. I mean, you know, and it's obvious because I am the common denominator. I am the one who is in all these situations. And so therefore I have influence in every single situation. And again, it's not rocket science, but it's a practice. And so to rewire ourselves, it's a rewiring, you know, breaking out of old habits and wiring ourselves a different way. So what happens is when we're in a situation, the most normal thing to do is not react, but to pause. So the first thing you've got to do is pause. So you hear something and, you know, your head might go, oh no, or whatever sort of reaction. And it's really crucial to just pause, breathe, and kind of allow. It's like yielding, you know, letting it, whatever it is, whatever that person has said, just be there. And, you know, I'm imagining some of the women on this call kind of, you know, with clients or, you know, and you go into a situation, you go into a meeting and there's a lot at stake and you don't jump in and talk. What I do is I go to an organization and I ask questions and I shut up and I listen. And when I've listened, there's this silence. And it's like the energy changes. Everything changes at that point because it does. It's like it's a different. I can't stress this enough. This is really potent stuff. It's what I actually call a superpower. Listening is a real superpower, and if you can really learn how to listen deeper and wider and imagine the person even listening around the space of this person. I mean, you can use your imagination to listen into that space. You can hear other things and you can ask another question. And so you're actually taking layers off where a conversation might be going. It might end up somewhere completely different that nobody had ever thought of because of your presence and the way that you responded with the questions that you ask and the generosity that you have in the space in between in that conversation. So it's pause and breathe and allow and just listen. And as you listen, actually, when you're pausing, it's kind of pause, breathe, and connect. So you just, if you're even, you know, if it's in a sort of even a tense situation, but just feel yourself there. I'm here. And then just allow whatever is there, just to be there without any judgment. This is actually like a new game. It's like playing a new game. And that's when you're allowing space for the dreamer. You're allowing space for the wisdom to naturally come through and be in the room. I highly recommend this.
Voy a traducir lo que estás comentando, que es también muy práctico, como decías, para una reunión con la clientela, en una reunión de trabajo, en un proyecto, en lo que sea, que tenemos, al fin y al cabo, tenemos muchas conversaciones de trabajo en las cuales tú nos invitas a tener otro papel distinto al que tradicionalmente se nos ha enseñado de reaccionar, sino que más bien hablas de estar y de escuchar de una manera más profunda y también más amplia. Hablas incluso de imaginarte, o sea, de alguna manera generar un espacio más allá de la persona y estar muy presente, y en esa presencia no solamente estar en el respirar y en el estar, sino de alguna manera disponerte a escuchar de otra forma, y que eso es la clave para y generar ese momento de silencio también. Hablas de que es la clave, que es como un superpoder, ¿no? Que es que la manera en la que luego se abren nuevas oportunidades y quizás esa conversación termine en un lugar distinto. A veces nos cuesta soltar eso, porque también puede que soltemos la intención que nos ha llevado allí, ¿no? Sometimes we do not want to just make things happen and listen in that deeper way, because we are afraid of losing control and maybe not telling the thing we wanted to tell, or just we do not close it as we wanted to, or we forget just to arrange the next meeting or things like that, you know, because we enter to another scenario. And
yeah, automatic pilot, you know, automatic pilot. You know, even your meetings, even your day-to-day meetings can change if you just begin at a different place. So if you start a meeting with business as usual, then that's what you get. But if you want something creative, then you don't start like that. Start differently. So start by connecting in with your team. Start by, you know, the check-in. And it doesn't have to take much. There's people create all sorts of interesting games around this, you know, like, you know, what's your weather today? Oh, it's cloudy, and my internal weather is cloudy, or it's, you know, there's a bit of a storm on the horizon, but at the moment it's quite sunny, you know, whatever it is, but just to really connect in with the human being first. It is so important, because that lays the sort of the path for the rest to unfold. It builds trust in teams, you know, it builds connection. It builds all the things that we human beings need to work together. And it's so simple. And it's just so often overlooked.
Que muchas veces lo más obvio es lo menos evidente, ¿no? Lo que simplemente conectar con la persona, y a partir de ahí que esa confianza y esa escucha sirva para todo el resto, muchas veces se pasa por alto, ¿no? Es tan obvio que se pasa por alto, y se trabaja más en la parte de puramente pues, tradicional, ¿no? Como nos han enseñado, que es ese imaginario de los negocios, que quizás, si se quiere trabajar en términos más creativos, pues se puede trabajar también de otras formas, ¿no? Generar otras maneras de relacionarse, que pueden también llevarnos evidentemente al negocio, ¿no? Que para eso estamos, pero que desde otra posición más creativa.
Sure. And you know, I just thought, well, maybe just to make it more practical now, to have some questions, which are reflective questions on, you know, for the listeners to take away and just ponder. Give some space to this question. You know, what have you discovered, the thing that you didn't know before, or the thing that you weren't so sure about? What is new? What have you discovered about yourself in the time since March 2020? What do you feel? And so, well, my work's all about feeling, because that's what I do really well. And it's my brújula, right? And so it's kind of like an internal antenna system. And you've got to keep it really clean and keep it, you know, keep working with it to keep it clear. What do you feel when you sit there and you think about, you know, where you are and maybe sensing where you'd like to be? What do you feel and sense that you have inside you that you want to bring forward in your life and your business. I don't see a lot of difference between life and business. Who we are at home is the same person as who we take to work. And when we make these separations and we talk about life-work balance, we've segregated our lives into separate categories. And separation is not a great thing, as we know. Separation causes a lot of pain and a lot of struggle. But rather have a conversation that connects the two worlds. It's not a mathematical equation, it's a conversation. Yeah.
So, es una conversación con una misma.
Siempre, siempre. And you're always having that conversation. It's like going there all the time, you know. So, yeah, so this experience called, if you like, COVID, if you like, it's been tough for everyone. Right now, I'm in New Zealand and we're in a lockdown where we can't even leave our neighborhood. We get stopped by the police if we leave our neighborhood. So it's kind of, it's been like, you know, a journey of being, for me, at home alone with my teenage daughter. And wow, we've all got stories to tell now about this experience, but not just about struggle, but about what's possible in this new kind of situation. And how can I show up differently? And what if I intended something for my day? What if I made an intention which was like, you know, how could today be extraordinary? Or how could it be just even better than yesterday? What would have to change in me right at the beginning of my day? So, yeah, I really do. I think we're in a moment of choice. It's a choice to connect into our wisdom and our potential. And we actually have to do the work to do that. We have to stop and lean in and sit with things that we don't like sometimes as well. Or just simply deny and avoid and change nothing. It's that way or that way. It's kind of, you know, that's how I've been, you know, experiencing this big change. I have a list here of some, just a sort of a reminder of really what we've already been saying. So, you know, and I've entitled it How to Access the Creative Field, you know, because most of the time, a lot of the time, a lot of people are, a lot of us all, and I'm saying people, me included, we just function. And then there's this creative field, which seems to be kind of always over there somehow, with all this list of to-dos that we have, you know, ticking boxes in our day-to-day. But what if we could access this, what I'm calling the creative field, and how might that actually change everything, not just in work, but in life? And what is it that we have to, you know, what are the areas that we really have to focus on? So really what I've been talking about is, to start with, is the shift from the head to the heart. It's like a relocation of headquarters to heart quarters, you know, playing with the language too. So, you know, power without love is dictatorship. But love without power is kind of meaningless. It's going nowhere. It's, you know, it's formless. So the other, that's one. So the head to the heart. The second one is the do to the be. So it's not about what you do, it's about who you are as you do it. Who are you being as you're washing the dishes, as you're talking to that client? Who are you? How are you showing up? Is there anything that you've lost touch with? That's the second one. The other one was, the others are the mindset. So, you know, from a transactional mindset to a relational mindset. Transaction is kind of, hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué tenemos que hacer? You know, that's kind of just business. But this is the relational mindset. How are you? How are you doing? You know, how are your kids? And you know, that's just the beginning. Yeah. And then, you know, there's presencing, to make yourself present in the moment. So to be present in a way in every conversation, you've got to slow down. You've got to start listening. If your head is too full of what you want to say, you're not going to be listening. And, you know, my job has often been a lot about listening to people. And it's been amazing. So I know how powerful listening is. And I kind of have this theory about it. It's like everybody wants to be listened to, so nobody's listening to anybody. But the thing is, when you actually start to listen to someone and you put your agenda back a bit, your agenda changes. It suddenly is not so important to say what you had to say because you're engaged in a conversation which is taking you to a much more interesting place. You don't know where it's going, but it's alive, it's on the edge, and it's creating in the moment. So there's I've got a slide which we'll put up, but there's one that I really wanted to share, which is from a thing called Theory U, which is a tool that I work with a lot. And it's based on this U shape, where you start, you know, at the starting point, and you go, you've got a choice. You can go over the top of the thing. Here's the thing that you have to talk about or think about or whatever. Or you can go down and up. So over the top is about denying, you close off your senses, you absence yourself, you go into blame, it's go away, avoid, push away. And the other way is, it's called open mind, open heart, open will. And so you start to, you suspend judgment. That's the first thing you do. It's kind of what I've been talking about. So it's breathing, it's slowing down, it's feeling in, it's letting go, it's arriving here. And then you let things come. And then things start to happen you could never, that's when you're really accessing that creative field. You know, you couldn't possibly have, you know, thought of it yourself or created that in your head, because you're in engagement with a real conversation with someone else. So, and trusting the process, you know, it's scary to do this at the beginning, but the more you do it, the better you get. So you're bringing yourself constantly into a state of readiness, of awakeness and aliveness. You look like you want to translate.
Yes, I wanted to translate because I think it is so interesting. Pasamos, nos invitas a pasar de la cabeza al corazón, de trabajar de una manera más orientada a, no tanto al hacer, sino al ser. Y a su vez estás hablando también de algo importante, que es pasar de alguna manera de quién soy cuando estoy haciendo esto. Entonces, también nos invitas a una cuestión más relacional más que transaccional, ¿no? Trabajando, bueno, trabajar mucho más el relacional, la parte relacional y no tanto lo que vamos a hacer, que eso ya va a construirse sobre el relacional. Es la base, ¿no? Y también hablas de la presencia de la escucha. Hay algo que me interesa, que es que eso de que todo el mundo quiere ser escuchado, con lo cual nadie escucha. Entonces casi el escuchar es algo revolucionario, ¿no? Es algo absolutamente nuevo, de lo que quizás la gente no está tan acostumbrada, ¿verdad? Y también mencionas la teoría U como una de un proceso estructurado que muchas personas aquí ya conocéis, la teoría U, que es trabajar desde lo profundo, ¿no? Desde otro punto de vista y sobre todo también el suspender el juicio como base de todo, ¿no? Como una apertura de la que hablabas también como base para el diálogo, ¿no? Que es suspender el juicio y simplemente abrirte a lo que está pasando.
Claro, claro. And one thing I thought would be really nice to share is this other field that I spend, a lot of time in practicing. And I call it antennaing yourself, to make yourself like an antenna. And this is another way of saying what we've already said. But what happens in reality is, you arrive, open heart, open mind, open will. You listen beyond, listen in and beyond, like a child. You open a gate to wonder, that lovely word, wonder, which is so beautiful, like a child again. So it's childlike, a lot of this. It's playful. You play with deliberately not knowing. So I turn up, for work in an organization, and it's all plans, it's all schemes, it's all agendas, and there's nothing edgy, there's nothing kind of unknown. It's all already done. And this is not going to cut it. This is not ever going to be enough today. What we need to do is we need to get good at not knowing and walk on that edge, that creative edge. So we need all to be bringing our creative selves into play. And this is the thing, we're all artists. This is the way I understand the world. We all have this in us, but some of us have it more and some of us have it less. So you do this, don't know, and then you simply just receive and stay present. Like you just imagine if you were an antenna and you were just receiving all this information and you didn't stick onto anything, you just received it. And then this person talks and talks and talks and then, and there's this beautiful space at the end of it, because what everyone wants, like I said, is to be listened to, and they feel listened to, and something immediately changes as you just listen. So you're switching your focus from telling to listening. Just notice, observe, and it's the hardest thing to do. Yeah.
Tengo una pregunta. I have a question for you, because you're talking about the future and how to build the future in another way, just going to the unknown every day. Hablas de trabajar en lo desconocido, ir hacia lo desconocido, porque muchas veces en el día a día del trabajo estamos todo el rato en lo conocido, ¿no? En gestionar lo ya conocido y cómo tenemos que abrirnos a nuevas experiencias, y esa parte de abrirse a nuevas experiencias también parte de la escuchar de otra manera, como una antena. Me gustaría también, a la hora de diseñar, hablábamos, ¿no?, en INNpower, diseñar el futuro, accionar el presente. En esto, ¿qué nos dirías sobre el tema del perfeccionismo? El perfeccionismo ya se sabe que es un arma de doble filo que muchas veces lo que dificulta es precisamente el abrirse, el trabajar de una manera más experimental, el abrirse al error, a los errores como una cosa natural y necesaria para seguir experimentando. Claro, esto va muy en otra línea distinta a lo que tú nos cuentas, pero es una realidad muy importante de muchas personas. ¿Cómo hacer para que ese perfeccionismo se esté modulado, ¿no? How can we just manage this perfectionism not to be just stepping into our path?
Firstly, I would say, I would ask the person who knows that they're a bit of a perfectionist, how is that working out for you? How do you feel about it? And what relationship do you have with your perfectionism? Like, what I do often with clients is I get them to talk and have a conversation with their own perfectionism and see what it has to say. So it's coming at the thing from a different angle, a different perspective, saying, hey, how are you? How are you doing perfectionism? Do you feel good? Often like, no, I don't feel that great. I just feel like I have to be like this because people won't like me, or my boss expects it, and actually what it feels like. How does that feel in your body? And how much energy is it taking of your energy, your source energy, And it's exhausting, actually. I mean, I think that's just one of the things. It's really tiring to be having to perform to someone else's standard, or even your own internal perfectionist's standards. When my daughter was little, she still does, she draws when I do. And we have these lovely creative moments, but she does her thing, I do my thing. And she's a real perfectionist. And she knows it. But when she was a little girl, she wasn't at all, of course. And she would just draw. I have piles of these books that she made. And they were all so expressive, and they were just little stick people with fingers pointing and emotions. And, so it was feeling, action through the hand. So she felt it, she drew it. And now what's happening is she feels it, she thinks it, she analyzes, she draws. And this seems to happen to human beings about the age of 12. They stop, we censor ourselves. What would I say to someone? I would say start talking to your perfectionism and see how you're feeling about it. And don't judge it, give it a break. Just listen to it.
I have another question about to visualize the future. Muchas veces se habla de lo interesante de visualizar el futuro para diseñarlo. De hecho, en italiano, diseño y dibujo es la misma palabra. ¿Qué herramientas crees que son interesantes, o cómo podrías invitar a las emprendedoras empresarias que están aquí escuchándote a dibujar el futuro o visualizarlo de alguna manera? How can we visualize the future?
I have an exercise which comes to mind, and it helps to do it with someone else who's like a witness. So you get a friend who's a good listener, and they can, ask you questions and talk you through it. So it's a bit tricky to do alone. So you are in the present moment, and you breathe and you connect to the question, whichever question you have about, well, what you want to create, where you want to be in 10 years' time. But before I go on, it's really important to say that, you know, whatever you visualize must be in alignment with who you are. And also, it mustn't be too fijo, because then you're just taking one thing into and putting it in a box and kind of going towards that thing and not being here and listening. So listening again becomes really important in this process, and it becomes important for the whole 10 years as you go forward. Keep listening to what's going on inside your body and how it feels. Because if it's not feeling okay, stop, pause, and start to have a conversation with that thing. So you're in the now and you project off into 10 years from now. Another thing that you can do is actually you describe that, and your friend takes the notes and listens and asks any questions that come up, but really get into the body. Make sure you feel it, it's embodying it. And then what you've got to do is you've got to go, you can go off and step into the future, literally. And you make a point on the floor, you say, that's my future point. That's 10 years from now. And I go and I stand on that point. How does it feel? Harvest it, make the harvest, la cosecha, de lo que hay. Yeah? How do you feel? What's happening around you? So you're really using your power of imagination, but also connecting it again to the body and how it feels. And you sort of paint a picture, but you're in it, you're experiencing it. And then it feels very different in the future, talking from the future. And then you look back at your present self, and then you can go back, just play. You can go back to the present moment, and you can ask your future self, how did you get there? Now I know where I want to be, but how did you get there? And see what it says. So it's an inquiry, constant inquiry. That's and there's many, you know, I don't want to go on for too long, but that's yeah.
That's a very interesting exercise. Thank you very much for sharing it. Yeah. We are about to finish, but first of all, I wanted to summarize the last things you were talking about. Sobre las técnicas para visualizar, Vanessa Smith nos comparte varias, y siempre es interesante esto de sacarlo de una misma con sus propios pensamientos, y para esto pues una persona que puede ser acompañante, una compañera, alguien que esté escuchando, recibiendo lo que tú puedes hablar de tus próximos 10 años, cómo quiero que sean mis próximos 10 años, y trabajar, hablar sobre eso, y que la otra persona quizás haga preguntas, pero se dedique a recoger, pero siempre trabajar desde el presente, desde el momento de ahora, y desde es una visualización, no algo fijo, que hablabas de no quieres algo en una cajita, sino más bien, bueno, hacia dónde te lleva, y también verlo desde el propio cuerpo. Y hablando del cuerpo, también nos hablas de otra herramienta que es ya físicamente avanzar hacia un punto, establecerse ahí y ver cómo te sientes, y también preguntarse a una misma cómo has llegado hasta ahí, ¿no? Y trabajar desde el presente y el futuro, pero físicamente avanzando y retrocediendo, para que esto nos dé pistas y nos dé también esas sensaciones, ¿no? Que de las que hablamos, esas emociones que pueden ser unas pistas muy interesantes de tanto ahora como para el futuro.
Yep, brilliant. And there was one thing I just wanted to sort of finish on, really, is just to sort of really embody this little session, which is a little exercise for you to sort of maybe help you anchor this into you in your own way. Now, earlier today, I thought about this and I made a picture, and it's a very simple exercise. So I'd like you to get a piece of paper and draw a circle in the middle of the page. And what I would like you to do is just sort of be silent for a moment, breathe a little bit, and kind of just empty your mind. And with this empty mind, I would like you to put the words which are like the old words, if you like, the words that are not fitting into this new you on the outside of the circle. I'll explain in a minute. And in the middle, I would like you to put the words that you feel are sort of these new almost verbs, you know, doing words, new ways of being words. So for example, we can, you know, have a look at this slide on the video, but you know, words like that you've been listening to in this talk, words like respond, words like listen, observe, fluid, maybe dream, you know. And then on the outside of the circle, the ones that you just want to sort of, you know, the ones that make you feel a bit stuck, maybe a bit in too much form, not free. The words like, you know, in conversation, manipulate. We're always manipulating people to get, even not consciously, but we're manipulating people to get them to think like us or to do what we want them to do. You know, let it go. React is another one, to just control. I have try on my list, you know, when I'm trying to do something and it just feels like I'm being pushed. So the push words on the outside, the pull words in the middle. And the middle is where you want to start to grow from. That's your exercise.
Thank you very much. Muchísimas gracias. Muchísimas gracias por esta charla, además con varios ejercicios para realizar, ejercicios prácticos que nos ayudan a eso, ¿no? A diseñar el futuro, pero trabajando desde el presente y activando el presente. Muchísimas gracias, de verdad, por esta primera charla que nos has dado, de las 3 que vamos a tener en INNpower, Auckland-Bizkaia, que nos acerca desde Nueva Zelanda, pues experiencias y saberes como el tuyo. Vanessa Jane Smith, que es la fundadora de Crafting Connection. Muchísimas gracias, de verdad, por habernos aportado toda esa inspiración y ese saber.
Gracias, Miren.